January 4th, 2021 council meeting to order. I would ask for everyone to stand in the audience for the invocation given by Dr. William Rice of Calvary Church. I'd ask that you remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we would come to you in prayer and ask your blessing upon this meeting, and we pray for our city, just as the prophet Jeremiah instructed us to do. We believe in your sovereignty. You have placed us here, and so we pray for the blessing of this city. We pray for the prosperity of this city. We pray for those who are struggling in these uncertain times. We pray for an end to this pandemic. Lord, we pray for those who are suffering, for those who are grieving, and we remember them as we gather and as we do our work in this place. I pray for the leaders of this city. I thank you for those men and women who have given their lives in so many ways to serve others in the role of government. We pray that you would grant them wisdom. We pray that you would grant them the humility to remember that they are here to serve others and to meet the needs in the lives of this community. May they remember they are here for that purpose and yours. So we pray that you would give them wisdom, and we pray that you would guide all these deliberations, and we pray for our city. And I would offer this prayer in the name of the one who saved me, in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Dr. Rice. I appreciate you coming out tonight, my home pastor. I have to thank him for that, sir. I would ask if any of you are planning to speak this evening, if you could get a comment card and just fill that out before coming to the podium. We would appreciate that. Want to introduce the dais. On my far right is our city manager, Bill Horn.
Good evening.
Councilmember Bunker.
Good evening.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Good evening.
Vice Mayor Albritton.
Good evening.
Councilmember Beckman. Good evening. And our illustrious city attorney, Pam Aiken.
Good evening.
We have a presentation to start off with. If I could have James Poulter come forward from the Chichi Rodriguez Youth Foundation, one of the great organizations we have in our city, not only offering golf, but also youth services. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you so much for inviting me tonight. As Mr. Horn, thank you as well. Thank you all for all you do for our community and allowing me to give a quick update tonight on behalf of the Chichi Foundation. My name is James Poulter. I'm the CEO of the foundation. I've actually been with Chichi since 2004, so it's been a little while, different roles throughout the years, but took over as CEO January 1st of 2020, so pretty good timing on my part, I wouldn't say. But I'm very proud of the work that we do within the community, thankful for the great partnership with the city, and we wouldn't be able to achieve the great things that we do without your support. So just want to show a quick video and then a quick PowerPoint presentation and answer any questions that you may have.
It's so unbelievable and so moving to see kids have their lives transformed through golf. What the Chi-Chi's done here at his school here in Clearwater, taking kids to finish their education and move forward. So when Chi-Chi asked me to get involved here, I was delighted to get involved. Done a lot of good things, and it will continue to do good things. It's a neat organization, and one that if people are really interested in trying to help kids, it's a good place to start.
This is not a golf course. This is our classroom. What you call the front nine, we call science class.
Golf is an individual sport. It's you against nature. It builds character, and if you try to win with honor, you never lose. People used to always put me down. They say, "You never make it, you're too small." You know what I used to tell them? The golf ball and the golf club don't know my side.
When you play at Chi-Chi's, you're supporting an innovative academic experience, unlike any other. When you play at Chi-Chi's, you're playing with purpose.
You don't learn by being perfect all the time. You learn more when you're failing, because then you gotta work harder at it. When you are failing and then you reach to the top, that's the ultimate feat that a person can have.
Alrighty, so obviously, we actually went through a little bit of a rebranding process last year too, so we updated our logos and different things. So you can see there our new logo along with the City of Clearwater logo, as you guys are obviously our main partner. A little quote from Chi-Chi there. Obviously, Chi-Chi founded the foundation back in 1979 with two other gentlemen, Bill Hayes, who was a local educator, and Bob James, who was a founder of Raymond James Financial. So the Chi-Chi Rodriguez Youth Foundation, basically it's a 501c3, and under the umbrella of the different programs that we operate. So we operate the Academy, the First Tier Clearwater, the Chi-Chi Rodriguez Golf Club, and the Chi-Chi Rodriguez Driving Range. So our mission is to educate students in a public-private partnership and improve their academic performance, self-esteem, and character using the golf course as a living classroom. So our history is talked about there a little bit. We were founded in 1979, obviously originally down at Glen Oaks, which is now a wonderful recreational facility for the city as well. 29 acres down there, and we originally started out as an after-school program. In 1989, we opened the facility on McMullen Booth Road. That was a $4.5 million campaign, of which we raised $2.5 million and then financed the rest, which was actually paid off in 2012. So in 1993, we opened a public school in partnership with the Pinellas County School System for 4th and 5th grade students. And in 2007, we actually expanded the school to include 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. In 2018, we actually extended our partnership with the city through 2035. And in 2019, we extended our partnership with the Pinellas County School System also through 2035. Some of our recent foundation accomplishments, actually most recently in 2020, we were just awarded by the Golf Range Association of America top 50 standalone driving range in the country. It's pretty good award. We've actually won that. It's the third time that we've won it since we've been operating it since 2009. We are members of many different local chambers. In 2020, Safety Harbor Nonprofit of the Year, 2019, Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, Tampa Bay Cup, and 2017, we were the National Golf Course Owners Association course finalists. There are 5 other courses in the country that qualified for that. And a couple of other awards there through different chambers as well. So a little bit about Chi-Chi's at the Academy and the breakdown. Right now we have 90 students that come to school every day on campus, 4th through 8th grade. And the students are selected based on their difficulty keeping up academically and socially. The students are referred to us by the Pinellas County School System guidance counselors and assistant principals within the school district. And as Tom James, our board chair, says, the high school dropout rate is a problem on which the business and civic community must collaborate to repair. And we're working on that every day to change that. So part of the first tee, you may hear the first tee is, if you're a golfer or watch the Golf Channel or see different tournaments that are out there, the first tee is a national organization that teaches golf and life skills to kids. We're actually the first tee at Clearwater. So not only do we teach golf to kids, we teach them core values such as honesty, sportsmanship, and having the confidence to do well in life. The first tee curriculum is actually taught to our students in the school as well. So they get first tee golf and first tee curriculum during their school time as well. This summer, and through the summer camp programs, we serve about 400 kids through the summer camp programs that we do on an annual basis. And then also we're part of what's called the National School Program, where we train the teachers within the county to implement some basic golf skills during school time, PE time. And with that, there's over 3,000 kids that we impact there as well. So what makes Chi-Chi's unique? Obviously, we operate a 170-acre campus comprised of a public golf course and driving range. And this is the kids' living classroom. So they get hands-on horticulture with 2 gardens that we have on the campus. They get golf and life skills through our First Tee programming. We do wildlife tours with the kids on the golf courses. And the most important thing that we do with the kids in the foundation is that we actually do a program that we call shadowing, where the kids actually come out of school and they'll come with us and we'll teach them what we do on a daily basis to operate the business. They really get a lot out of that. Some of our most recent educational results, and this is actually through the Pinellas County school system. You can see our middle school math and science midterms exams for this year. Our science class average, we're actually performing higher than the district, which is pretty awesome to think. When we take the bottom 20% of students and we're getting them to perform better than the district does, we're showing some really good results there. Along as in math as well, you can see the 6th, 7th, and 8th grades are either performing the same as the district or higher than the district. Some of our alumni spotlights there. We do offer scholarships for the kids once they leave Chi-Chi's and they go through the school system. We do offer scholarships for them for higher education. Our overall high school graduation rate for Chi-Chi's alumni is 78%. Obviously 2020 with COVID-19 has been challenging for everybody. We were able to keep the businesses open. Both the golf course and the driving range stayed open the whole time, following the CDC guidelines and ordinances that have come down from the city and the county. The kids did go virtual learning from March through the end of the school year. So they did go to virtual learning there following the Pinellas County school system. And one of the things that we did through the summer was we actually went out and purchased new desks for the students, so they all had individual desks. We purchased plexiglass, so they're safe as possible during their lunch breaks. And basically we were able just to kind of continue to try and move forward as best we can. So the golf course and the driving range, obviously the partnership with the city is huge. We create a recreational space for the community, and every year we play over 50,000 rounds of golf on the golf course, and we're going to sell probably close to 60,000 buckets of balls this year, actually, compared to previous years, because golf has definitely been one of the things that's benefited in a way from COVID. People feel comfortable getting out and playing golf and being outside. And obviously from a mental health standpoint too, I think it's played a good role within the community. So proceeds from the businesses fund our educational programs, and more than $2.5 million has been raised over the last 10 years to go back to the foundation for everything that we do. Our fiscal year runs July through June, so these are the numbers from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. You can see there our golf club income, our driving range income. Foundation income is generated through public contributions and fundraising, special events. So our total operating income was just over $2.9 million, with total operating expenses of $2.5. So the net operating income goes back into the foundation and back into the campus for capital improvements that we do on an annual basis. So talking about capital improvements there, obviously we continue to work every day on improving the campus and the facilities. Improvements at the driving range currently stand at around $500,000. We assumed the management of that back in 2009, and we've been operating that ourselves ever since. In the summer of 2018, we did a major renovation on the golf course and spent over $400,000 on the golf course with new greens, tee boxes, cart paths, bridge repairs, and drainage improvements. In the next 2 years, we plan to replace our irrigation system. The irrigation system is original, stuff that's been in the ground since 1989. And right now, we're in the process of working on that, but the projected cost on that is going to be around $700,000. So with that, any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Poulter? Councilmember
No
Hamilton?
question, just, y'all do such a great job out there, and, yeah, it's, if you ever get a chance to go out there and see these kids, it is really something, because there's a lot you can learn on a golf course other than just the game of golf, and you guys have really taken advantage of that opportunity, and I commend you for it.
Thank you.
Great job.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, just a comment too. Thank you so much for coming out tonight and showing everybody that it's more than a golf course there. We have so many partners in our community that do more than just what their main thing appears to be, and that's amazing to the kids respond so well to this, and what a beautiful place that is. So thank you.
It's one of the great partnerships in the city. Our philosophy always is we don't have to do it all, we just have to make sure it gets done. And you guys do it so well. It's a beautiful nature preserve too. If you go out there, there's a lot of great areas. I've seen some amazing things when I've been out there chasing some balls, which weren't in places that they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming out tonight, and also want to tell people that Glen Oaks, which got converted, your old home, is not only a great recreation area, but it also took over 100 homes out of the 100-year floodplain. So that's something that a lot of people don't know, and it improves the water quality going into Clearwater Bay, which I think is important for folks to know. It had multiple purposes. So, James, thanks for coming out tonight, and thank your board for all they do.
Yeah, we obviously couldn't do it without you guys being our best partner, our biggest partner out there, but also we are fortunate we have a good, great, active local board of directors that we work with on a daily basis to continue doing what we need to do for the kids.
Some very dedicated folks.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
I would ask if there are any amendments to the minutes of the January 21st, 2021 meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. At this time, I'd like to open it up for citizens to be heard. If there are any citizens in the audience that would like to speak to items that are not on the agenda, we ask you to come forward, fill out a card, state your name, and we respectfully ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
I can do that. My card's there. My name is Beth Davis. Good evening. At your last meeting on January 21st, Mayor Hibbard, you denied my application for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and you accused me of violating Clearwater election law on the landings referendum. As a public official, you should be sure you are correct about what you say in public. A phone call or a rejection of the application would have been more appropriate. I'm here to set the record straight on the landings grassroots effort. A handful of neighbors met to discuss how we could work to defeat it. Our lifestyle, our property values, Clearwater green space were all on the line. I did not start the GoFundMe page. When there was $400, 100 signs were purchased. That was the only purchase made. In September, I emailed Rosemary Call to ask what rules might exist for a political effort. I contacted her. She sent me the booklet and forms to file. The neighborhood group did not meet the requirements. $510 was raised. The founder closed the account. She personally returned money to people. For the record, I was a donor, not the founder of the account. I did let Rosemary know that we did not qualify for a PAC, so we never applied. She did not respond with anything else I needed to do. There were other neighborhoods and citizens across the town who spent their own money on this campaign. So the David and Goliath tale continues. To contrast, we all know that Herod Properties invested $30,000 to promote the landings referendum, vote yes in their favor of light industrial. And your endorsements and pictures, Mayor Hibbard, Councilman Hamilton, and Albritton are all on this flyer. We were a few neighbors in a neighborhood working for our homes and environment and 35,000 people agreed with us. My intention to run for Parks and Rec Advisory Board was to be a good steward of the city and our neighborhood parks. That you, Mayor Hibbard, publicly accused me of not being transparent and legitimate to the rules of the city without asking is more than disappointing. That's not the behavior I expect of our elected officials. Citizens deserve respect. You have impugned my character of accusing me of violating election law, and that's not true. In fact, we did follow the rules. You never asked. Building relationships to improve the city is never more important. For you to make a false statement publicly hurts my reputation with those on staff here and each of you. I feel that was slanderous, worse than a Facebook post, in a time where we should be working together. Today is an opportunity. I do plan to continue to communicate and contribute neighborhood concerns to you. I would like to think my character will be acknowledged and respected for the work I'm doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. I did call our city clerk to ask about a PAC and the need for one. My understanding is over $500. That is the trigger. I have a picture that I saved of the GoFundMe page, which exceeded $500. I follow all the election rules when I run for a campaign. I don't think there's anything wrong with finding out where money is coming from, whether you're for or against an item. I think that is what the law requires. I know that several of the people on this board believe in transparency, at least they talk about it a lot, and I expect it from citizens too. I originally opposed your application because we already had 2 people from your zip code. You would have made it 3. I brought up the additional information once that wasn't enough. I still believe that the information that I received from our clerk is correct, and I don't think that I impugned your integrity, and we may just have to agree to disagree. Congratulations on the referendum, though. Anyone else for citizens to be heard? Okay. With that, I'd ask if there are any consent items, 7.1 through 7.11, to be removed either from the council or from the public. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda of 7.1 through 7.11?
Make a motion to approve items on the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.11.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 8.1.
Approve a future land use map amendment from the residential suburban RS category to the residential urban RU category for 2250 Nursery Road and pass ordinance number 9427-21 on first reading. Ms. Clayton.
Good evening, Gina Clayton, Planning and Development Department. The request before you is to amend the future land use designation of this property, which is a little under an acre in area that's located on the north side of Nursery Road, east of Belcher. The property is currently designated residential suburban, which it allows 2.5 units per acre, and the applicant is requesting residential urban, which is at 7.5 units per acre. If this is approved, the allowable density would go from 2 units to 6 units. There's also a companion rezoning application on the agenda next. As we discussed at our Monday's work session, staff was allowed to go on the property, and we verified that there are 2 occupied units on this property. I will say that there are 2 additional spaces in that back building on the 2nd floor, and each has its own entrance with a lock and a peephole. And once you go inside of both of those spaces, you find 2 rooms and a bathroom, but no kitchen. Based on the information that I had prior to the work session, it was my understanding that they intended to scrape the entire site and redevelop it, and after our meeting I found out otherwise, and I believe the intention is to retain the back building and add townhomes, but the owner is here and can address that for you. The surrounding area is characterized by a variety of uses. You'll find multifamily to the west, single family to the north, and county retention area adjacent to the east. To the south, you'll find commercial and multifamily development. The surrounding future land use categories include residential high, residential suburban to the north and east, and residential medium and commercial across the street to the south. As outlined in the staff report, the proposed land use category is consistent with the surrounding area, will not degrade the level of city services, and meets the standards for comprehensive plan amendments set forth in the code. The CDB reviewed this in December and recommended approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Ms. Clayton? All right. Is the applicant here?
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is Hushko Vahi. I'm with Northside Engineering. We're located in Clearwater, 300 South Belcher Road. With me tonight also Mr. Larry Hilkert, as well as his son-in-law Travis Hott are here, and also our consultant Wayne Wells, who could be joining us to give you a bit of a technical information on this site. Thank you for giving us the opportunity last time to continue this meeting so you could have a bit more information on the existing structures. We met with Ms. Gina Clayton and her staff and looked at the site, looked at the buildings, looked at the front building, which is a single dwelling unit. In the back is also like a townhome style unit. There's a resident at the bottom currently, and there's nothing on top on the second floor, except that storage in some areas from, you know, there's some maybe chairs and things are upstairs. This project was constructed in Pinellas County in 1986, and we have an approved plan from the county, exactly the way it is. Nothing has changed. The project later on was annexed to the city of Clearwater. Mr. Larry Hilkert wanted to eliminate the septic tank, which he felt was not very environmental friendly at the time, and we wanted to connect to the city of Clearwater sanitary sewer system. So we drew up at the time, actually, 1999, 1998, we drew up a design for him to connect the sanitary line. And at that time, we annexed to the city. It's a requirement. Unless you annex to the city, you can't connect to the sanitary sewer system. I also like to stand corrected. I wasn't sure and aware about the building in the back. I think in the last hearing I had said that we were going to remove and raise that building in the back. I stand corrected. After talking to him, he would like to go ahead and leave the back building alone as is, and design 5 units of townhomes in the front vicinity. Did not want to come up with the design of a townhome because, you know, we're not quite there as far as exactly what it needs to be, and I didn't want to present something to you tonight that could change later on. But we would like to keep the back portion alone. The front portion would be 5 units. A total of 6 units would be on this site. So if approved tonight, this project will become something more in line with the vision of the city. I think you would like to see that a lot more than what's out there right now. The front portion is a single dwelling, and it's not in the best shape, and so forth and so on. So we would like to take that out and add 5 units of townhomes to the site. And I think by doing that, you will enjoy the property, you enjoy seeing it, and it's something to be proud of at that time. So at this point, I would like to have Wayne Wells to come up and just talk a little bit technical about the site and density, intensity surrounding the site, and so forth and so on.
Wayne Wells. The request can be viewed as a modest increase to the existing residential, to the density and a logical transitioning of density from the existing residential high, which is to the west, and the commercial and residential medium to the south across Nursery Road. The request and also can act as a land use buffer to the detached dwelling subdivisions to the north and east that have the existing residential suburban land use. The request is also consistent with the goals, objectives, policies of the adopted comprehensive plan, and the residential urban category and the land uses it allows are compatible with the existing surrounding land use categories and uses. And the proposed residential urban land use will not adversely affect the existing or allowed use of properties in the immediate vicinity. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? Is there anyone to speak to this item? I do have a card from Mr. Gilman. Two people who have ceded their time, Mr. Metz and Mr. Ongst. You're both here.
Good evening, council members. I'm Clay Gilman with McFarland, Ferguson, McMullen, and I'm here on behalf of my clients, Mr. Robert Metz and Mrs. Margaret Metz. They live at the residence which directly abuts this subject property to the north at 1478 Maple Forest Road. We appreciate you guys requiring the staff to go out there and check to see if they were in compliance. However, we still believe that you should reject this application and force them to resubmit an application with the CDB in addition to a site plan, so that way, if the CDB decides to approve that site plan and then send you guys a recommendation of approval for the land use amendment and the rezoning, you guys will be able to see and verify what is going on that property once it's been approved by the CDB. And while we recognize that you guys don't approve the site plan, this would just allow you guys to at least verify and have comfort knowing what's going on that property. Because as we've noted, we feel that there is a clear delineation here between this residential neighborhood and the higher density uses to the west and the south. And seeing that site plan would allow you guys to see that it comports with the residential quality of the surrounding neighborhood. And then you can make your decision on whether or not such a plan, comports with that neighborhood. You guys only have one shot to amend this land use and change the zoning on this property. And once you've amended it, how can you trust that the Hilkerts will do what they say when they say they're going to have 5 additional units now on that property? They already have one in the back. And respectfully, they do have 2, you may not call them units, but living spaces on top of that. So that already you're getting closer to 8. And if they are forced to submit a site plan that the CDB then approves, you guys will be able to see it and approve it based on with a site plan based on the residential neighborhood around it. Because this is only a legislative matter, you guys only need a rational basis, and we believe that this to deny the request, and we believe that the pattern of noncompliance that the Hilkerts have shown with over $500,000 in fines is a clear rational basis to deny this request and have them resubmit an application with the CDB with an attached site plan so that you guys will be able to verify what is going on that property. If you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Gilman? Councilmember Hammond?
No, not for
okay.
Mr. Gilman, I don't.
Anyone? Councilmember Bunker?
Are we allowed to ask for the site plan?
Ms. Clayton, that is not your process when you're looking at a land use plan amendment. It would come afterward when they're ready to develop.
So,
Ms. Clyde?
That is the current procedure. It used to be different in the past, but that was changed, I think, back in 2012.
so I did drive out there and I looked at the property and both the front house and the back unit, they're both kind of run down. But I wasn't sure, how you're going to fit 5 townhomes in that front area. So,
We have not seen a drawing. It could be challenging, I don't know. We'll have to review it on its merits once it's submitted.
I saw several cars there and a couple of trucks already. So, just curious.
Right, well, there's people living, in both units, so there are a lot of vehicles there.
Any other questions for Ms. Clayton? As she leaves me? That's okay. We can always call you back up.
Did you?
I don't think so. Not at this time. But it's good exercise, Gina. Thank you. Rebuttal from the applicant?
Here's a survey of the property with the building in the back and the building up front. There's plenty of room, Councilman, to provide 5 units. We do this every day, and I assure you that there's plenty of space and room to put the units and parking garage under it. We can do that very easily.
But you're saying the building in the back is going to remain as it is?
Yes, yes, the building's in good shape. And Mr. Hilkert himself has been a contractor for 50 years. And he's here tonight to attest to that. And he built it really, pretty good. He did a good job building it. So if there are any questions related to that, we can gladly address. But as far as the design at this point, CDB is also a public body, and they can come and raise any objections during that hearing. It's not like we are going to submit something to the building department and get it approved. They will have another chance to come and take a look at the site plan and raise their concerns during that CDB public hearing. And we'll be glad to address it at that time. The other thing I wanted to show you is basically an aerial that you have seen. I think Ms. Clayton has a very nice aerial that she, that turn this? I guess, yeah.
They'll zoom in for you.
Yeah, okay. So,
For those at home, can you point out the subject property?
Yeah, here's the subject property, and by the way, the address is 2250 Nursery Road. So this is a small property that we have right in here. Just to the east of it, there's a Pinellas County retention pond. And all that is in the county, and property to the north of us is also in Pinellas County. And there is an easement between us and actually the north property line. So here is another plan. And I think I lost my space on that, but there's a property, there is like a 25 foot easement to the north of the property that as a county dedicated to Pinellas County for drainage easement. So anyhow, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask the owners if they have any additional. Would you like to add any?
So, Travis Hott, son-in-law, from E4. I'm going to show you the design submitted to the county back when this building was built, okay? And that's the upstairs. There are 4 bedrooms upstairs. This is approved by the county. This is the county signed off on it. This is the downstairs, and this is the garage area. This is the living space, okay? So I apologize last time because I was told in the first meeting that it was a moot point and they weren't going to bring it up again, so I wasn't prepared for the last meeting. It's my fault, okay? This upstairs here, this is what we used when I told you guys we use it for storage. You guys have been in and verified it. It hasn't been used in years. I told them to run the water. The water will come out completely rusty. Nothing's been used. Mr. Hilkert rented this in the 1980s to a family that he didn't realize they had 23 children. Yes, I know, okay? And they installed the peepholes. Okay, the locks upstairs we installed because we use it for storage and it has open access to the stairs here for the downstairs tenants. But they installed the peepholes, and your people should have verified that peephole's been there for 20, 30, 40 years. We wouldn't install peepholes. There's not a reason to install peepholes, okay? So they went through the process of even going out to the front unit without our permission, knocked on the tenant's door, and walked in the house. They don't speak English and walked around the house. I really kind of didn't appreciate that, but it does prove our point that we don't have multiple units on the property, okay? Let's squash that point. I'd like to bring up the point of the whole, everybody's beating down the permit violation, everything else, okay? So you all sent Mr. Hilkert 2 code compliances, 0214, 0224, here and here. Sorry, apologize. Okay? So he sent responses on both of them. The one with the multiple units was ignored. The other one, you guys, within the time period of March 18th, you signed an affidavit through your office saying on the 17th that that code compliance was fulfilled, and it's done. You proved it, because what it was it was a dump truck he had bought. He parked it on the side of the building behind the gate. He didn't realize it wouldn't allowed to be parked there, and he moved it. It was a simple fix. He didn't feel like he needed to open it up to say
Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
this. Okay, so my conclusion to that is the
I need you to wrap up.
I got you. The lien that you guys have was invalid because you put a lien on the house for something that was on your own paperwork completed and then pursued by you guys.
Thank you.
Okay?
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, just will be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you.
Is there any?
I actually do have a question.
Sure.
Because you're a real estate agent.
Yes, sir.
If you're trying to sell townhomes, one of the things people like to see, at least people I know, is what am I looking at out my backyard or out the back of my unit? And what are the visual things on the, on the property?
We're not building townhouses to sell, sir. We're building townhouses to lease, not to sell.
Okay.
They're investment properties.
Okay, but I mean, still, is it going to be easier to lease if they're not looking at a storage shed?
If you'd like to join me tomorrow, I'll drive you to 1,000 rentals in this area that have been rented out in the last 6 months that don't have a view.
I can answer that question, Councilman. If we laid the townhomes north-south, then they would be looking into the existing county pond, which is pretty green. So there's plenty of room to do it on the east side of the property.
But to answer your question, no, most townhouse people don't say, oh, I need an incredible view out the back. They're lucky, they're happy to have a place to live because Pinellas County is hurting for housing, and you all know that. I'm seeing developments go up everywhere. That's the only reason we're really pursuing this is because, it's an opportunity to invest our money to have a return.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Bunker?
I have a couple questions that I'm just curious about.
Sure.
How do you rent to a family that has 23 kids and not know that? And what the heck's going on with these peepholes?
Well,
Well,
I don't know, sir. This was done in the 80s. And once again, Mr. Hilkert is a get-along guy. He's probably the most friendly person you ever meet. And he just takes people at their words. And you can't hold familial status against people, as you know, when you're renting or selling anything. That's federal law. So you can't say, oh, you can't live here if you have kids. And you can't dictate how many kids they have. So do you see my point? So he did it, and when it was time to renew, he said, hey, listen, there's too many people here. You guys got to find someplace else to go. So he didn't say it that way, of course, but he just, he moved them forward, might be the best way to say it. Can't control if tenants go in there and draw a hole in the wall and put people in there. There's never been a physical address there with the post office. No one's receiving mail there or anything, just the people living there. So.
But until at least last year, there were 4 mailboxes. Now there are 2.
I don't know the amount of mailboxes, to be honest with you.
I think they showed us the picture.
That's
from
what
Google
we
Maps.
have identified back in the record. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
On that part, once again, before mine.
All right. I don't believe there's any more questions from the council for you, Mr. Hunt.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, you had a comment?
Yeah. Is this closed now to discussion?
No, I have a question for Mr. Gilman, so,
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, not for me.
no.
Okay, done with it. Okay, sorry.
Mr. Gilman, you're asking us to go outside of, our normal process. I don't even consider that lightly. First of all, can you give me a little bit more color, because Mr. Metz ceded his time to you, of some of the issues why you are opposed to this? I originally thought we were gonna lose the warehouse and the front house, and to get 5 new townhouses was interesting to me, because I think what is currently there is an eyesore. When I hear the warehouse, or we're gonna call it the warehouse tonight for identification purposes, that's not quite as attractive to me. So can you express to me why specifically the Metz family is opposed to the project in itself?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you guys have noted, the warehouse, again, as we're gonna call it, it backs up onto their property, and although staff indicated there's foliage, and it is an eyesore for them and for, their family, and they feel as though if they're going to redo the property, there should be a site plan that's at least going to benefit the neighborhood and not be a detriment to it. And we just feel that you can't really trust what they've come up here and they've showed you what they say they're gonna do, but if you approve this amendment, they say they're gonna leave that warehouse. Well, they say the peepholes and all that, there are living spaces up there that they could allow people to go into, and it's gonna be very difficult to get people out of there. If you go ahead and approve this amendment, they have 5 townhomes and this warehouse in the back, it just feels like that's gonna be a big cluster on a small lot where it's a residential neighborhood. I mean, if you looked at the map we showed you, it's all residences around that, and then there'd just be this 6 to 8 unit, and my client just feels like that's not what this is intended for, and we just disagree with that usage.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Aiken, did you have something to add before I open it up to the council?
I was asking Ms. Clayton, if you approve the land use plan amendment, and if you approve the zoning, could they then renovate that back structure and put back in dwelling units? And the answer to that is they could. Would it have to go to Community Development Board? Or staff conditions?
Without multifamily, I think in this case would require them to go to the board, or at least that was our understanding. Without having a site plan, it's very difficult to give you the full answer on that. But I thought you were asking me if they could later turn in the upstairs to living units in addition to the units that they might build.
Actually, I was thinking instead of.
Oh, instead of.
As an interim
yes.
measure right now, if it gets approved, could they just reoccupy those units?
It could. I mean, it would require renovation. There's no
Right.
kitchen.
So there is no guarantee that you will get rid of either of those 2 structures. If you approve this, it just increases the allowed density.
Right.
That was my question of her, to
Okay.
clarify.
Vice Mayor, did you want to? Yes.
Just spoke with our client, and he is willing to make that building in the back consistent with, I guess it won't come before you again, but you can put some sort of a requirement that the CDB will include beautification of that building as a part of their site plan approval. And just wanted to also reiterate that I don't know where the word I just keep forgetting things, I'm sorry, maybe I'm getting older, but it's a dwelling unit, and it's not.
Storage garage.
Yeah, it's warehouse, yes, I'm sorry. It's not a warehouse.
They've been using it, in our meetings, we've had the conversation that
Okay, I
they've
just-
been
I
using
just
it for
wanna clarify
warehousing
that.
items.
So one
So for
single
lack
family
of a
home.
better term.
And it was approved by the county, and it was adopted to the city. It was annexed, so basically, it was a child, like you adopt a child, that was passed on to you as it was approved. So it's a dwelling unit, and I just want to kind of correct that. But as a part of your approval, if you choose to approve, we're willing to beautify that building in the back.
Do we have the ability to put those contingencies on?
No,
This is
sir, not in the
unusual.
land use plan amendment,
Yeah.
and even in the rezoning, this is just a straight rezoning. You cannot add those kind of conditions. So
But
You-
we're willing
you
to go on the
don't.
record. I mean, I understand that, and we're trying to help out the project, so in whatever mechanism that you guys choose to, and we can go on the record to state that that back portion will be beautified based on a CDB review.
But we have no way to enforce it. That's the problem.
I understand.
you
So-
really don't.
Okay, thank you, Ish. Vice Mayor?
Okay. Is this closed now? Are we discussing this?
It is.
All right. This one is an odd one for me. I mean, I'm a retired contractor, and I'm very for property rights. But I don't like the history of this. And unfortunately, I didn't know it before, but now I know it. Whether you were right or wrong, there's a history of non-compliance here. So I know we talked about what may go on there, what your plans are. Here's what I'm going to suggest. And, this is a land use amendment, and it's a legislative process. I know you're not required to have a site plan before us to make that decision. But on the bigger picture, I think the mechanism that you're going to get, for me at least, is let's go ahead and do this. I want to make sure that this property and what you want to do all happens. Because I'm not comfortable now that's going to happen. I think that what you should do is get a site plan of what you want to put on there, take it to the CDB, have them approve it, and then come back to us. If we have an approval from CDB on a site plan that's going to be good, fit with that neighborhood, we can give you the land use amendment. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
And we'll be okay with that, Mr. Vice Mayor.
I've got to turn to the attorney on this, because I don't ever remember in my history.
We have not done it that way, and I'd like to consult with my two experts here, but if CDB could approve it subject to the land use plan and the rezoning.
You know what? I
So-
want to take a 10-minute recess.
Yeah, let
I
us
want you
just
to
consult.
all to talk, and then we're going to come back after a 10-minute recess.
Okay.
We will reconvene the February 4th, 2021 council meeting. We are on item 8.1. We had our legal team conferring with our planning department. We have talked to the applicant. We have a couple choices here. If they pull the item, then they can come back and concurrently work on the site plan and the zoning change and everything else. If this is denied, it's going to be a period of time before you can reapply. Do you have a decision as to whether you want to pull it, or would you prefer we voted?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, what?
We will be willing to withdraw the application and resubmit with a general site plan.
It's completely up to you. I mean,
Well, whatever your vision is, I mean, we are trying to meet your vision.
I heard you say general site plan.
Yeah, no grading, no utilities. I mean, we can show landscaping.
You would have to meet a site plan that's sufficient to get through Community Development Board. Because you would be going to Community Development Board with this site plan.
Well, that would be first, so we'll go to CDB first?
What we would do is run them concurrently. So yes, you would go to CDB. The CDB approval would be contingent on the land use plan and zoning adopted subsequently. So yes, you would be going to CDB first.
Okay.
And then come back, it would be contingent, and you'd come back to council after your site plan has been approved.
Okay.
or you can have us vote. It's up to you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to say yes. We would like to withdraw the application and resubmit.
Okay.
Thank you.
So do I have a motion to continue until a date?
Withdraw,
outside?
sir.
Withdraw,
Continue.
okay.
I will make a motion to withdraw agenda item 8.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 9.1.
Same.
Needs to be withdrawn as well.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to it before we withdraw it? Seeing none? Have a motion?
Make a motion, we withdraw agenda item 9.1.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 10.1.
Excuse me, let me just get my paperwork.
No problem.
here. Ordinance number 9425-21, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to change the land use designations for certain real properties located generally 950 feet east of South Missouri Avenue on the north side of Lakeview Road, whose post office addresses are 1280 Lakeview Road and 1298 Lakeview Road, all within Clearwater, Florida 33756, from residential medium RM and residential urban RU to residential low medium RLM, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 10.1? Have a motion?
Motion to adopt ordinance 9425-21 on second reading?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 10.2.
Ordinance number 9426-21, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by rezoning certain real property located generally 1,200 feet east of South Missouri Avenue on the north side of Lakeview Road, whose post office address is 1298 Lakeview Road, Clearwater, Florida 33756, from medium-density residential MDR to mobile home park MHP, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Have a motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 9426-21 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 10.3.
That's a motion to continue.
Does anyone want to speak? Do we need to ask for public comment first?
Ms. Clayton?
I'm sorry, this is the case that was before you tonight. I think that this would need to be.
Right, we would just withdraw this one in the next
All
one.
right, I have a motion to withdraw. Anyone from the public to speak to item 10.3?
Motion to withdraw agenda item 10.3.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 10.4?
Same.
Same. Anyone to speak to item 10.4? Seeing none?
Motion to withdraw agenda item 10.4.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 10.5.
That ordinance was not approved on first reading. It only appears here because it was advertised.
Okay. 11.1.
Confirm COVID-19 emergency proclamation and adopt resolution 21-05. Mr.
Graham.
Devon.
Good evening, Council and City Manager, Mr. Horn. Javon Graham, Division Chief, Emergency Management. This is our weekly resolution extension of emergency to continue the efforts that we need to deal with the pandemic that we're dealing with as a nation. While we're still at the bottom end of our peak, our cycle this time, it's still here, and we're still dealing with it, and we need this declaration to continue the efforts that we deal with on a weekly and daily basis.
Any questions for Mr. Graham? Anyone from the public to speak to item 11.1? A motion?
Motion to confirm COVID-19 emergency proclamation and adopt resolution 21-05.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. Aiken?
Resolution number 2105, confirmation of COVID-19 emergency proclamation, February 4th, 2021. A resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, confirming declarations of a state of emergency, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to the resolution?
Move to adopt resolution 21-05.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 11.2.
Approve changes to Clearwater gas system utility rates to become effective for all gas bills and services rendered on or after March 1, 2021, and pass ordinance number 9433-21 on first reading. Mr. Warrington.
Thank you. Chuck Warrington, Executive Director of the Clearwater Gas System. This is a request to approve new gas rates to become effective March the 1st and pass ordinance number 9433-21 on first reading. As you know from our earlier meetings with you, our base rates and service charges were last adjusted in November of 2014, 6 years ago. We used a respected utility rate consultant, Raftelis, and worked closely with finance on this evaluation. Jay Ravens, our finance director, led this effort, and he will walk you through a summary of the consultant findings and our recommendations. Then Jay and I will be happy to respond to any questions you have. Jay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to repeat the presentation that I did at the work session, or I can quickly summarize and address the questions that were brought up at the work session. Your preference?
I don't know that we need the full presentation from Monday.
We completed a rate study recently that took most of calendar 2020. Raftelis, our rate study consultant, provided us with two major findings. One was that the current rates are sufficient to keep the utility financially sustainable for the next 5 years per their 5-year forecast. The second finding was that we did have a significant equity issue between the residential customer classes and the commercial customer classes. Per this finding, the rate study consultant has recommended that we increase the residential single-family rate by $4, the fixed component of their bill, by $4 per month, effective March 1st, 2021, and at the same time lower the commercial commodity rate by 4 cents a therm. These adjustments, along with other adjustments that we're making, particularly moving utility customer service charges from a variable component included in the PGA rider and the ECA rider, we're moving that into the fixed charges also. But those changes combined are revenue neutral. Council at the work session questioned whether the residential increase could be staggered over a 2-year period, with $2 March 1st of 2021, another $2 March of 2022. We had the rate study consultant calculate the impact of a couple of different scenarios. One would be in year 1, reducing the residential increase to $2, and at the same time reducing the commercial decrease to 2 cents per therm rather than 4 cents per therm. So effectively half of each rate adjustment in the first year, half of each rate adjustment in the second year. The net effect of that change by itself on the gas utility system reserves was a hit of approximately $308,000. That is a decrease in reserves that could be absorbed in year 1, and we still maintain a reserve level above the minimum required reserves throughout the 5-year forecast. The second option would be to give the commercial customers the full benefit of the entire 4 cent per therm reduction up front, March 1st of 2021, while staggering the residential increase $2 per year. The impact of that change is estimated at $559,000 to the reserves. Again, we found that did not decrease the gas fund reserves below the required minimum for the 5-year period. So with that, we have the rate study consultant, Bart with Raftellus on the phone if you have any questions, and Chuck and I are available.
I mean, I'd recommend going with option 2, and that way we give the commercial customers the full benefit this year, and I think with the reserves, we're still okay. We spread the residential over 2 years. I don't think that's unreasonable, and that gets us to where we need to be from a rate standpoint going forward. Do you all have a recommendation that you prefer?
Well, naturally, we recommended the original version, but we're amiable to either of the two. We did prepare and put in your package all 3 alternatives.
Right.
So if you go with the one with the bifurcated residential and the full commercial, that's ordinance with the C on it. So we'd ask you to vote on which one you want to be done.
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I'm okay with number 2 as well. It's hard for me to make a jump of $4, even though it doesn't sound like anything. I know my wife would probably, when she got the bill, would be talking to me about it. But my question is, why is the commercial commodity rate, why was that so high to begin with? I mean, I guess comparative to other utilities around, we were higher, and that's why we're bringing it down to be more competitive.
It's just the way most municipal rates are, and other companies as well. I think 6 years ago when we did the last rate case, we dropped them a little, we're getting closer to being in parity with Eco People's Gas. They interesting enough increased theirs somewhat this January 1st, and so that brought us closer.
Is this new administration, with some of the restrictions that are coming up with, is that a concern that you're thinking about? I mean, I know the gas for my car is going up a lot, I mean, within a week. because they're bracing for that. What do you think's really going to happen this year? I know you must have be thinking about it.
Well, gas rates at the present time are at historic low levels. I would have to believe that if you reduce the amount of drilling and the amount of available supply, that it'll have an upward trend.
Supply and demand, yeah.
We'd hope that there won't be too much, but that's a likely, I think that's a likely result.
Other questions for Mr. Ravens or Mr. Warrington?
Well, I guess the only question I could ask is, option 2 is a $500,000 hit to the reserves this year. But in the overall 5-year plan, it doesn't take our reserves below, but how much closer does it put our reserves to their minimum allowable level at the end of 5 years?
It puts us right on. It's within probably, everything's estimates at this point, but the numbers are almost equivalent. We're right at the required reserve level at the end of 5 years.
I mean, that's what I wanted, the information out to the public. I saw that in the thing. I just wanted it out there. But, and again, it's all projection. I know I'm going to do my part to increase revenues to Clearwater Gas, because when they finish renovating my pool and I add a hot tub, I got a feeling there's going to be, my gas consumption is going to go up quite a bit. But you know, so I have faith. I've been around long enough to been dealing with Chuck and Clearwater Gas since 2001 at this level, and I've got great confidence in the people over there that at the end of this 5-year plan, we're not going to be so close on our reserve. I'll bet you we're going to have those reserves built back up a little bit too. So I believe in that. I don't have any guarantee, but I have faith, and so I'm okay to go with option number 2.
Appreciate the comment, and I would tell you that our history has been to do better than than what our budget has been, and so I think we'll do better. But the fact is, we're planning on doing a review of the rate case 2 years from now. So if it's not at that point, then we'll talk about changes at that point.
I was going to say budgets and rates are dynamic and they change, 5 years is hard to predict anything. So, other questions or comments? Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Seeing none. Do I have a motion?
Let's see. I would move approval of agenda item 11.2 based on option 2.
C.
2C.
It's C.
Yeah.
Okay, on option C. Okay,
Second.
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Items 11.
And I will read the ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ordinance number 9433-21C. An ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida relating to utilities, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 32, Utilities, Article 8, Gas, providing for the use of subcontractors in the fulfillment of gas services, amending the Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Schedule of Fees, Rates, and Charges, Section 26, Clearwater Gas System Fees, Rates, and Charges to revise rates for Clearwater Gas System customers in accordance with the 2020 Clearwater Cost of Service and Rate Study, providing an effective date.
I move to pass ordinance 9433-21C on first reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, now items 11.3 and 11.4. I'm going to be turning over to the Vice Mayor. I do have a relationship with Mr. Crum, so I am going to be recusing myself, and I will be back for item 11.5. It's all yours.
Okay. Okay, agenda item 11.3.
Accept a temporary easement from Crum Properties 2 LLC to the city of Clearwater for ingress egress access to certain real property located at 100 South Missouri Avenue property for purposes of completing ground truthing and verification therein, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Ms. Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Good evening, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tara Kivett, Engineering Director. This temporary easement will allow the city access to the Crum property and allow Cardno, acting as the city's consultants, to perform ground truthing activities on this property. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Anybody from the public?
Oh, any response from the public?
Here we go.
Greetings to all of you, Javante Scott. Address is 1214 Fairburn, Clearwater Avenue. I wanted to say thank you to City Manager Horn, Mayor Hibbert, for your response to the NAACP's MLK Day. So thank you all for that. I want to ask a question and then also acknowledge you, Mr. Hamilton, you, Ms. Beckman, for your thoughts on Monday during the council session. I just have a question as it relates to the documents that were mentioned before. Are those in public record for?
Those were actually on the next item, but
Okay.
yes, they are public record.
Okay.
And readily available. We can send
So
them.
we can find that if we go to the public records section on the site, on the city's website, we can find that there.
Yes, or you can send us a request and we'll email it to you.
All right, do we have any other questions for the public? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 11.3.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Agenda item 11.4.
Approve an appropriation of general fund reserves and a work order to engineer of record Cardno Inc. in an amount not to exceed $87,888 to complete archaeological excavation at the Crum property, the former site of St. Matthew's Baptist Church Cemetery, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. DeSico.
Good evening, Council. Joe DeSico with Clearwater Engineering. St. Matthew's Baptist Church Cemetery was an African-American cemetery that operated from the early 1900s until the 1940s. Very little information regarding grave relocation was found after the cemetery was closed. Recent historical review and GPR surveys have indicated that there may be some active burials still at the site. This excavation is a preliminary effort to verify the presence of active burials. Any questions?
Any questions? Any public comment?
I would move approval of agenda item 11.4.
Second? I guess it'll go to you.
You can't say.
Oh, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Okay, agenda item 11.5.
Approve staff request to vacate an alley located within the Clearwater Gas Complex at 777 Maple Street, described as all of the platted alley lying within Block 10 of Jones subdivision of Nicholson addition to Clearwater Blocks 7, 8, 9, and 10 as recorded in Plat Book 4, page 82 of the public records of Hillsborough County, which Pinellas County was once part, and pass ordinance number 9434-21 on first reading. Ms. Kivett.
Thank you again, Mr. Horn, and good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, Tara Kivett, Engineering Director. This ordinance vacates a platted alley in the Clearwater Gas Complex site. City staff recommend vacation of the alley. Any questions?
Any questions? Anyone from the public to speak to item 11.5? I have a motion.
Motion to approve agenda item 11.5.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Aiken?
Ordinance number 9434-21, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, vacating an alley described as Olive the Platted Alley, lying within Block 10 of Jones subdivision of Nicholson Addition to Clearwater Block 7, 8, 9, and 10, as recorded in Plat Book 4, page 82 of the Public Records of Hillsborough County, which Pinellas County was once a part, providing an effective date.
Anyone to speak to the ordinance? Motion?
Move to pass ordinance 9434-21 on first reading.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Item 11.6.
Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, this is actually a council member discussion item.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Yeah, I'd prefer to have this conversation in private, but sunshine law doesn't allow us to do that on the city council. So everything we do is right up here together. And so Parks and Rec had a board meeting the other day, and I just think there's some things we obviously need to talk about. And maybe we also need to have a broader discussion just of the roles and responsibilities of the council. The fact that we really are a policy board, and all of that is done from the dais as a uniform group. Each of us have a vote, but we're only one vote of 5. And so any decisions or direction that we give to any of our advisory boards really needs to come from the entire council, whether it's a unanimous or a majority. That's the way it has to come. So I got a call, and that's why I asked Mr. Horn to add to this to the agenda. And so I have a couple comments that I'd like to make. Councilmember Beckman obviously visited the Parks and Rec Board, and appreciate her doing that and her enthusiasm. But there's a couple issues that I think we need to discuss. I don't know if you want to say anything now or just...
No, I think as we start, I appreciate that there was an email that was sent to us that you received 2 phone calls from board members about my engaging with the Parks and Rec Advisory Board last week. And I feel that before going forward with a discussion, which I'm certainly willing to have, it's not a problem, there needs to be names attached. It can't just be, well, I got 2 calls. And if we're not going to have somebody own up with a name, I don't think that's right. You know what I mean?
Well, I will tell you, I'm not going to publicly say who the 2 members were because I want them to be able to call me. And frankly, I didn't see the board meeting. It's not something that I was watching, but it was brought to my attention. And so then I watched it. And after watching it, that was what prompted me to want to put it on the agenda. Not really them calling me as much as what I saw during the meeting.
Okay.
So, but I want people to feel comfortable calling us, any of us, about anything. And, if they put it in writing in an email, that's one thing. Then it's public record. Obviously, everything gets shared with one another. But, I'm not here to castigate.
That's fine.
I'd rather have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Like I said, in private. But, and I don't know if I'm just the only one. That's fine. But I will tell you, I have a couple concerns. And so the first would be that whenever we have a meeting, the timer is on for our citizens. And so everything that we ask our citizens to do, I think we ought to also be doing. And, you came up and spoke to the group 3 times. And one of the times was for double the normal time that we would have in front of our council or any of the other board meetings. Now, I think the clerk should have started the timer, who was running that meeting. She did not, and there's a reason for that. Whenever we interact with our staff, they feel an obligation, because as much as we like to say we're just a normal citizen coming to a meeting, we aren't. Council member or mayor follows that name. And I think that's the case for all 5 of us. And so, you know, you talked for double the amount of time that would normally be allowed. If the timer were on and the chair had given you additional time, that's one thing, but I think we have to follow the same rules. And we had a citizen that was mad at me this evening for saying that I don't think she followed the rules for an election and a referendum. You know, when we run for office, we have to list every donation, if it's over a certain amount, what that person does for a living, their address, and we not only have to account for every dollar we get, we have to account for every dollar we spend. And that's part of the public record being transparent. So that was one of the issues that I had. And then I really felt like you were giving direction to the board and telling them what they should be doing. And none of us really have the authority to do that. And so I'm going to try to put this in context. If I went to the Environmental Advisory Board and told them to do something that ran counter to how you feel about what the Environmental Advisory Board should be doing, would you have an issue with it?
And you'd have, I don't know, probably. I mean, I don't want to get into hypotheticals, that doesn't matter. I mean, so the point is giving direction.
Yeah, I think we should, if we think a board ought to be doing something, like perhaps, I think one of the contentious items is that the Parks and Rec Board and the Environmental Advisory Board should have weighed in further on the landings project. That's something that we as a group ought to discuss and say we are directing our staff liaison to go to that advisory board and talk to them.
But let me say this, Mayor Hibbard, in response to that in particular. So one thing, on the agenda, there were a number of things on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and one of them was to discuss their direction. What are they there to do? I forget what it said on there, but kind of like their mission statement. So I did get up and speak about that. That's where I think I was probably a little more directional, than you might have liked. And then there was another agenda item that I got up and spoke on. So when I spoke 3 times, it was at different points of the agenda. And I guess one of them went over twice, I don't know. But in response to whether or not we should give direction to the Parks and Rec or the Environmental Advisory Board about weighing in on the landings, and I know that's a sensitive
No, I'm just giving it as an example.
But here's what the language says that I commented on as I had their agenda and this language in front of me. It says, the Parks and Recreation Board shall consult with and advise city manager and other municipal officers. So shall consult with, I think that's an engagement with, and advise. I haven't gotten any advice from any of my boards just yet. But regarding the physical condition of, improvements on, and beautification of the public parks and playgrounds, shall serve in an advisory capacity in connection with all public parks, parkways, playgrounds, athletic fields, bathing beaches, and all other property owned or controlled by the city and used for public purposes, and then shall make recommendations regarding the development of city property as public parks and playgrounds, and shall submit reports to the city commission regarding their recommendations. And so I take that as they shall make recommendations about those public parks to us. And we didn't get any. And they didn't solicit. No one solicited input from them. And so that's where I said, look, and I'm not going to replay what I said to them, but, and let me just be transparent too. So I was thinking about, getting to know each other. So I'm the oldest of 3 children. I'm the only girl. I had 2 younger brothers. I played school in my basement since the time I was probably 6. So I've been told I've been kind of bossy and, always been a great student, likes to direct things. I loved being a mom. I loved being a teacher. And in my school district that I was fortunate to teach in, we had a curriculum, but we had a lot of freedom with what we did and how we got across our message. And, we all had common assessments, so, you were measured with how you taught, but there was a whole lot of freedom there. I loved it. And so when I see this board, this Parks and Rec board up here, and they are supposed to be consulting with me and advising me, and they're not, I'm like, come on, let's work together. And so that bossiness or kind of directional personality, yeah, it comes out, but I haven't gotten any of this, and I want it. And I wanted them to feel empowered. And I was there for a couple of purposes. Number one, I was there to thank the board and thank the staff for all the work that they do. Those two boards are the most important to me, Environmental and Parks and Rec, mostly because they touch our residents every single day. I was there to ask for their engagement. I need you. I need to hear from you. I need to know what residents care about, because as you all know, a lot of our emails and interactions with residents deal with the parks or deal with their neighborhoods and what's going on. And then I encouraged them to ask questions about big projects so they know what big projects are going on and they can weigh in, as in our Imagine Clearwater Park and the development of that's going on. And then finally, I encouraged them to learn about the parks, and I showed them my big park that came from engineering, not Mr. Cater supplied it through Miss Davis, and then, but it's a phenomenal map that's all color-coded, and so it was to thank them, it was to engage them, it was to encourage them, and it was to, help inform them with that park map. And just to counter with, whoever called you or contacted you about concerns about my attendance and, interaction at that meeting, if you watch the people sitting up there, there was a whole bunch of compliments about, thank you, Councilmember Beckman for this and that and everything else. Mr. Rector called me on my way home and said, that was great, I wish we would do more, and blah, blah, blah. Mr. Thomas was the first to email me the next morning at 6:30 or 7 saying, hey, can I have a copy of that map and stuff? And another park member, Miss Tuttle, I think her name is, Lisa, Tuttle Beery, called and asked me to come on over, and we had a conversation for an hour in her kitchen. And so people want to be engaged, and I can't apologize for wanting to hear from the boards and giving them more respect and interaction. And so I will be careful to not give direction. I can use, this is what I would like from you. And then as far as, going over the timer, to be perfectly transparent, I was the only person in the room, period. And, I would say that the chair, the person who serves as the chair of the board, has discretion of whether or not he or she wants it to go over. And I didn't feel that chair, who was very interactive with me conversationally, was worried about, the clock. I thought it was a great meeting, and I just, I wanted to go to the library board meeting today, but I had, I had meetings with senior staff and stuff. But,
Vice Mayor.
So first, let me just say this. I applaud the energy that you have, but I think you're missing the point. The point is, and I know that you're well-intended and you're going out to really get something very close to your heart. You want to see them get engaged. What I would say is, we sit as a body, not individuals. And for me to go, again, as a vice mayor or council member to any board, it's almost threatening because I'm a council member. Everybody knows, but when we sit as a group, we really sit as a group. I would say, you know what, I think we could be doing more on our Parks and Rec Board. Once you have them come in, tell Bill at the meeting, and they come up to the podium, and then we can give them that kind of input as a group instead of an individual. I think that's the part that's where the rub is. And I know you don't understand that. I know you don't see it because you're passionate about what you're thinking. But you just think that we act as a group. I mean, we may have individual things that we are close to us. We may disagree, and we will disagree because we're all different people. But when we sit up here, we sit as one. And I would love to give some input too, but for me to go and I could sit in the back of one meeting and listen, but for me to get up and talk, I think that would be stretching it. And I know you don't probably understand that, but as an individual council member, they may think that I am trying to influence them the way I think. And I'd rather have the entire board as a discussion, talk to them here.
Do we have rules on whether or not we can attend or speak at advisory board meetings?
We have ordinarily asked advisory board members or the chairperson to come and speak to the council. If we have specific taskings, and we have had boards that occasionally come off the rails, we're aware of that a couple ways. I mean, we get the minutes from the boards, so we get to see what they're talking about and what the issues are that they are discussing. And then obviously we all have access to watching the board meetings themselves. And then also there's staff liaisons that talk to Mr. Horn periodically to tell him what is going on specifically, if there's either an issue or they want to raise something, what I would say escalate to the city council because they want more resources or more time. And we're going to have a discussion about advisory boards next month. I don't know that we want to do that tonight, but we have a process. And
yeah, here's a good example. I'm a retired contractor. I know everyone in the building department. I mean, I know a lot of staff, and I've been around staff for 20 years. When I became council, I cannot pick the phone up and call Gina at the building and without clearing it with Bill first.
I do the same thing.
I know, but that's just odd. I mean, I'm used to picking the phone up, but that kind of plays to what I'm saying. Bill doesn't want to see me influencing anybody, even though it might be a simple question. You go through Bill, and he knows that you're calling about something, and that way there's no rub. There's no person thinking that you're trying to use undue influence, whatever that may be. So, and the public doesn't know that. I mean, that's something I didn't even know until I sat in this chair, and I'm like, what? You mean I can't even pick the phone up and call somebody I already know? So I don't know if that's a written rule. That might just be is that something written? I know I was told that, but.
When it relates to staff, it is. It is, you are not allowed to give direction to staff. There is nothing specific about the boards other than that they advise the council. So the advice and direction really to anybody comes from the council, not the individual council people.
And I don't even think if you were to see Bruce Rector, let's say, out having some wine somewhere, you could talk your heart out to him. But as a group, that's, again, you're talking to a sitting group. That's where the rub is. It's not necessarily trying to get your thoughts across, it's just how you're doing it.
Okay.
Councilman, go ahead.
So I can send individual emails, kind of rah-rah emails like, hey, this is coming up. We're going to be making some decisions about some plans on Imagine Clearwater. Just want to make sure you guys are involved. You know, here's some documents that I've received through staff or whatever that you all might want to consider. You know, I mean, am I going to do that individually to an individual Parks and Rec board member? You know what I mean? If it can't be, I'm not getting what I want from, it sounds so awful. I'm not getting any advice or guidance or feedback from any of these boards. And I want it. I think that's what they're there for, and I think that's what they want to. You know, the feedback that I got from people on the board said, I feel like I'm just here to rubber stamp something that's already been done. And they're not engaged enough. And I would say that, you know, I'm here for some change, for something a little different than what we've already done. And sometimes there's a little friction when there's change.
Then that's something that should be discussed up here. And that's something we're going to be discussing next month, which was
Okay.
agenda'd. But if that's the case, then we need to talk about the actual boards, the way they function and other things. But Councilmember Hamilton.
Well, I don't have a lot to add, because mine is more general towards advisory boards as a whole. I think you were on the commission, when I was on the commission, where we formally changed our name to council members, because commissioner wasn't the proper name for us, because we are a council manager form of government. We set policies, and then the professionals, department heads and everything else, run the city. And so, you know, it's, you know, when we were commissioners, you know, normally if you're a commissioner, you actually, in a lot of cities, the way it's set up, if you're a commissioner, you actually help oversee a certain department of that city. And it's not the way we operate, not the way we have been. So but most of mine will be, I'm going to reserve mine, because I appreciate your passion, trust me, I do. You know, I've done this for 13 years, and I know you get tired of hearing me say that, but, you know, I don't think I've ever attended an advisory board, because they're advisory in the capacity that they should be advising us. Now, if they're not giving us the information we need, that's on us.
But I'm trying to change that.
I know, but we can change it as a body, not as an individual. And that's why the discussion, when we have the meeting about advisory boards, we can come to a thing, and we can say, you know, maybe we're charging our city manager and our department heads that are the department liaisons to those boards to become more engaged with us. We want more information. We want you to do this. And if that's what we decide, I'm fine with that. But it is when we go somewhere, when I go somewhere, and I put it on a personal, when I go somewhere, as long as I'm sitting in this seat, I'm not viewed by most people as a citizen. I'm viewed as a council member. And until that title is taken away from in front of my name, that's the way it is. So it's just something we have to deal with. And I look forward to the conversation, and I'm not, you know, I don't fault you for your passion at all. We don't always agree on where your passion lies, but I respect the heck out of it. So,
Councilmember Bunker.
Yeah, I would never call you bossy. I think.
I own it, and I'm okay with it.
No, you're passionate. And I gotta believe that the people who are interested in politics, who do follow this, because most people are not going out to vote, because they're just so sick of it all. I think most voters who pay attention want all of us to be like you, want all of us to be passionate, want to get something changed, want to get something done. But as you were talking about the appearance in front of the board, you were saying, I'm not getting any feedback. And we are supposed to be getting the feedback as a board. And so far, and I think that's what the facilitator is being brought in to help us with, to understand how we function together as a team, and how we can best make progress to make these boards work better and to interact better with all of them. I felt the same way, you know, when you were saying to the board, I want us to, you know, have this relationship. Well, yeah, I know before I got elected, I could call Chief Slaughter and talk to him. I now know that as a council member, if I want to talk to Chief Slaughter, I get it okayed first. And I think that's just a process that we have to have, whether it's with staff member or with these advisory boards. And I think it's more of a misunderstanding of how we can best do that, how we can best function, how we can best deliver. Like, you know, when you talk about, and I thank you for this, every time you bring up, we need to be thinking about minority groups and female-led businesses. I don't think you're saying the rest of you people don't care about this, but if it's not brought up, nothing really gets changed. And I don't know what can be changed on this level about that, because I don't think you can do any type of quotas. We should have a discussion about that if that's something that we seriously believe in. But I don't think anyone believes that you're accusing us of not caring about these things that you're passionate about.
No, I'm not. I'm just,
Yeah.
again, I don't generally wait around for somebody else to do something. I usually jump in and just do it. That's just my personality. It's like I'm not gonna go out and sometimes like ask permission. I just go and do it, ask forgiveness. But, you know, I just, you know, I wanted to be there to thank them, and I never get to see them. They only meet once a quarter. But I will say you know, until I'm told, until we have that discussion about, you know, what's your role, I would like to interact with advisory board members, even just individually and not from, you know, the podium. But I guess, and I don't want to throw any staff members under the bus, but in different departments, but it's my understanding that the advisory board members on a different number of advisory boards don't know what they should be looking at. They haven't been given a heads up. We know that the Parks and Rec and the Air Park and the environmental advisory boards weren't clued in on the landing stuff that was going on. I know that the Parks and Rec board and the environmental advisory board haven't been brought in or kept in the know about Imagine Clearwater things that are going on. Those two groups should be involved, and that's what they're there for. It says it right here. And so if it's not me who's going to urge them to push for more knowledge and more things to weigh in on, then staff should do it or something. And again, we can have that discussion, you know, later in the month or whenever it is, about what our boards are here for and what they want to be doing and what we expect from them. And perhaps I think we should invite them to come and comment on that. And so maybe we can send out a letter in the next week or so that says, hey, we're going to really review the role of advisory boards, how we interact with you. We'd like to know your feedback.
Well, we used to have them come and give reports, A. B, you know, I know you all are on a learning curve, and I know you don't want to hear that.
No, I'm fine. I fully acknowledge my learning curve is like that. I'm fine.
Which is what I'm writing this all off to.
Okay.
But also understand that the last 10 months that you've experienced are not normal. The interaction that we've had with neighborhoods, that we've had with advisory boards, that we've had with citizens, none of it is normal. We're operating in a different plane that I don't think any of us are accustomed to, and it is not as efficient as it normally is. I've got a couple more comments, but Mr. Horn, did you have something to add?
Well, I was just going to remind everyone that I had advised you that once the liaisons get the feedback that we wanted from the advisory boards, then we bring that feedback to you all, and then you could continue and complete that discussion around advisory boards. And then what comes out of that will be the kind of guidance that goes to the board and the kind of guidance that goes to the staff. Councilmember Beckman and I, had a conversation this morning, and there are some sandbox boundaries that I think may work into some of this conversation. But it is challenging, Mayor. I think you made a very good point. When you are constantly asked to do things that focus your attention on the administrative side of government, and you're trying to meet the needs of residents who are asking you questions and they want answers, it's very easy to slip into a pattern of thinking that, your job is to be an administrator. And that's not really the case. And what we're going to be doing as we go forward is to continue to try to highlight the policy issues involved in what's being asked, and make sure that we are supporting all of you the way we should, so that those policy issues can be brought, in front of you. We certainly want our staff to know that, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and we certainly don't want to make them feel like that they have to be doing something because of one person's enthusiasm, when they really should be focused on doing what the policy group says that they should be doing. And so I think that's...
So I don't want to belabor this much longer, but, I will point out just a couple other things that, first of all, when you talk to the boards, I think we all care what they're doing and what they're thinking and what they believe they should be advising us. I would change the language. If you look at my emails, I tried to say us as a body. There were a lot of me's the other day, which was also, to me, an issue, because then individual boards are just going to a single council member. And you even at one point said, I can hear Pam Aiken in my ear. So you had to have recognized that you were getting at least close to a line, otherwise you wouldn't have made that statement.
Which is why I said me, because it was like, I am not speaking for you all. I am just here for me when I spoke to them.
I understand that,
yeah.
but me doesn't give them direction.
No.
Us
I know.
gives them
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
And so, let's move on. I think this is, at least has been a fruitful discussion for us to have. And, we'll have a very robust discussion next month on the overall advisory board process, their taskings, and everything else. So, anything else, Mr. Horn?
No, I have.
Ms. Aiken?
No, sir.
Okay, closing comments. Start over with Mr. Bunker tonight.
Oh. Well, I will point out that yesterday at the Downtown Development Board, we did hear from a person who's got a new business, female-led, African-American, Muslim. So there is some representation here, and it should be something that will bring a lot of people downtown as well. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy working with all of you. And I look forward to learning more about how to make this process move more smoothly.
Thank you. Councilmember Hamilton.
Okay. Number one, go Bucks. Number two, I'm going to ask for a little privilege to go over the 3 minutes, because I spoke with the city manager and the city attorney today, and I don't know how you all feel about it, and that's why I've asked them to put it on a future work session discussion. But having lived here all my life, I've been through countless, lots of different city elections and the politics of Clearwater. What we saw a year ago, you were running against 3 other people, you ran against 4 other people, or whatever it was, is something we've never experienced in Clearwater. It's you know, you can call it an anomaly because it hadn't happened, because historically, in a lot of cases, back through the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, a lot of times there was one person running. There was only one person interested in doing this job. And if it was an incumbent, you know, rarely did an incumbent, if they were running for a second term, and this was even, you know, before 8 is enough, but didn't draw an opponent. And that was the norm. And, you know, I'm not saying Clearwater didn't prosper, because we did. We had good people doing that job. And don't take this wrong in any stretch, but what I'm hearing, people I'm talking to, and what I'm hearing from them forecasting into the future, the election next year for my open seat could have another multitude of candidates. My question is, do we have the appetite as a board, as a body, to look at a referendum to change our voting system to a majority rules, where you need to get 50%, more than 50% of the vote to win the seat? If there is multiple candidates and nobody gets 50%, the top 2 candidates, I believe, should have a runoff, so that whoever does ultimately occupy these seats gets more than 50% of the vote from the voters of Clearwater. And I'm not taking that as a shot to anybody or anything of that nature. It is the rules. We've operated under the rules of our city, but society has changed. Our city has changed. We've got more and more people interested in doing this job. And if we're going to have a multitude of people running for these seats, I think the citizens of Clearwater deserve to have whoever's sitting here should have received at least more than 50% of the vote going forward. So I'm willing to have that conversation to see if we have the appetite to have a referendum at our next election in a year to change that system. It would not have any effect on the election in next year's election. It would go into effect for all subsequent elections after that. I think it's probably time for that. A lot of the people that I've spoke to about it have expressed the same idea. So I look forward to having the conversation, and I've asked to have that put on a work session agenda for discussion to see if we want to give Ms. Aiken and her department direction to work on putting a referendum of that nature together.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a discussion item.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts
Absolutely.
with it, and there's pros and cons. I have positive and negative feelings about it, especially because of the money with runoffs.
Yes.
But there are other ways that you can go about it. I do want to point out I had 4 people in my race and did get a majority.
I apologize.
Anyway, Vice Mayor.
Okay, just a couple of things. I know I gave a report with PST last time. We've had a board meeting since then, also legislative committee meeting. And just a couple of things. PST did win the TSA Golden Award this year, which is very rare. It's a security award given out by the Transportation Administration. And actually, PST has won it 3 years in a row, which is very good. So I give them a big round of applause for that. Today there was a commission meeting, a county commission meeting, and I think that they were going to discuss giving us a support letter for the Clearwater Intermodal Center. Janet Long, I got with her at the legislative meeting, and she came up to me and said, hey, county would be interested in giving us a support letter. So I'm still trying to get people to give us some support for that. I did find that we were thinking it was April, but for the federal funding, but we did talk to Congressman Chris, and he thought it was probably going to be closer to June because he is on the Appropriations Committee, so he kind of has a little idea when that's going to all come around. But Pinellas County has never had a bill grant, which we're asking for, given to Pinellas County. Now, Tampa's got them, some of the communities around us have them, so it's, I think we have a good shot this year of getting it, because all the little places are checkmarked. We're in an opportunity zone, and we've got a lot of people in back, businesses in back of actually doing this. So we have another meeting. We got 4 Pinellas meeting this week. So probably next, I won't do it during the work session, but probably next council meeting, I'll give you a short update there as well.
Well, I do think there's going to be an infrastructure bill after this stimulus bill. The further along PSTA can be, I know they're not shovel-ready, unfortunately. Those are usually the ones that get the most funding. They certainly did back in 08 and 09 with Tiger grants, which was a way to stimulate the economy. But certainly this has been a long time in coming.
Yeah, well, we did get a matching grant from FDOT. They've committed to that, and they have an FTP now for a design engineer to design and that will be ready by, they're anticipating this summer. So we could have all the little stars coming together on this.
Well, we also have some of the right people in leadership right now who are local to our county at the state level. So, Councilmember Beckman.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I was happy to attend the Lake Bellevue neighborhood meeting. I think it was Monday night, and there were a number of officers there that were talking about the community problem response team, I think, Chief Slater. And that sounded like a great response team to deal with kind of quality of life issues in the city. So that was really exciting to hear about. But more importantly, I got to see the body cameras for the very first time. And that was really good to see those. And the sergeant explained how they worked, and they're right here on the sternum, and they look like they're about the size of a box of 24 crayons, and it was really neat to see that they're already in effect. They're not like the phase-in adoption phase. They're fully functional and kind of matter of fact there. So that was good. I was happy to see the Go Bucks banner that's up now on Old City Hall. So that looks good. And then February begins National Black History Month. So as an educator, I'm all about learning. It's why I ask so many questions. So I think it's pretty clear that we are an incredibly diverse nation in many ways, but what I would hope is that we can learn about our collective history together, because Black history is American history. And if we understand the past, what our true collective history is, what happened, why it happened, how it happened, when we're dealing with these unmarked African American graves, that's part of our collective history. That will help inform our actions going forward. And an African American writer, poet, a great writer, activist, James Baldwin said, "It's the past that makes the present coherent." And so I would encourage you, I'm not going to give a directive, but you might want to think about, because I'm trying not to say the word should, I really am. You might want to think about taking some time to learn more about national African American leaders and influencers, as well as the local African American leaders who have made significant contributions in our community here. And I'm doing that every single day. I make a post about someone local or national. I learned recently, just as a little aside, and I'm probably going over my 3 minutes, but when I was in 5th and 6th grade, I had a principal at my little school, Horsebrook Elementary, which was right out our back door, named Olivia Letts, and she was an African American woman, and it was we just had one hallway in the little school, and we walked to school. But she was the very first educator in Lansing, Michigan, and she died Monday. And so my mom, shared the obituary with me, and she said, Dr. Letts died. And then I read that and didn't even realize it, but, they make a difference. So just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you very much. Obviously, we want to say go Bucks. It can be a historic moment on Sunday if they can pull it off. I think they probably will. On the next council meeting, I would also like to add, I'd like to go to our federal legislators and ask them to consider extending the opportunity zones, because I think we have lost, when it's all said and done with COVID, I really think we've lost 2 years. And that could be a tremendous asset to us in our downtown and the opportunity zone. And as you're trying to stimulate the economy, which I think the federal government is certainly trying to do right now, it aligns. So it's something I'd like to start. I am going to ask the U.S. Conference of Mayors to discuss that topic and hopefully take a position. So I just want to make you all aware of that. On Monday, February 1st, the city of Clearwater began test excavations for the North Greenwood Cemetery, a process known as ground truthing. Work is expected to begin around 8 a.m. each day and end around 4 p.m. The test excavation is expected to take up to 2 weeks. An update will be provided tomorrow, February 5th, to the media and NAACP. Clearwater Beach is celebrating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and our area is hosting the Super Bowl 55 by building a sand sculpture. The sand sculpture will be crafted in partnership with the city of Clearwater, the Pier 60 Sugar Sand Festival, one of Florida's best and most popular festivals. 3 master sand sculptors are creating a one-of-a-kind, sandtastic sculpture, which should be completed by Friday, February 5th. The city of Clearwater has issued a request for proposals to redevelop the 3 key downtown waterfront parcels on our bluff. The Clearwater City Council is seeking a combination of residential, retail, and parking on the sites, with the possibility of a hotel to complement the bordering redevelopment of the roughly 22-acre Coachman Park. The city of Clearwater is currently also recruiting for pool lifeguards. Lifeguard fees will be waived if participants can pass prerequisite requirements. To see requirements and to apply, visit myclearwater.com and click on the Apply for Employment link under the How Do I tab. City of Clearwater offices, libraries, recreation centers will be closed on Monday, February 15th in observance of President's Day. The city's solid waste department will be working, and there will be no changes to the collection schedule. I want to thank everybody tonight for a good meeting and a lively discussion. Again, go Bucks. Be safe this weekend. We all know that there will be some adult beverages that may be consumed, so if you're doing that, don't drive, and also don't get in groups with COVID. Let's not see a spike after Super Bowl Sunday. God bless you all. We're adjourned.